Just drinking myself a nice oolong towards the end of the day and just like, it's the end of the day. I'm chilling out, drinking tea. Very nice little brew. Brewed up in Yixing clay pots, just the right temperature. Fantastic. Not quite within the Gong Fu tradition, but it's still very nice indeed. The more I'm thinking about today, when you're feeling really, really enthusiastic about the rest of the world and you think you're on the right side of history and you think you've got all the right ideas and you think you're seeing things moving in your direction, then the willingness to talk, the willingness to make a video is much stronger, the willingness to write a blog is much greater. When you're up against a tide of different opinions, different ideas, when you're up against a tide of hostility against yourself as an individual, hostility against who you are because of what you think and what you believe, it's much harder. Alright? You find yourself trying to do things to fit in, but after a while you realize that what you're doing is you're fitting into being like the kind of people that you don't necessarily like or can get on with, or indeed people whose values are so dramatically different to yours that the more you try and become like what these people want you to be like, the more you're losing yourself, you're losing your mission, you're losing your voice, you're losing who you are and what you stand for. And when I say what you stand for, that means who you are as a political individual. I've spoken to a few people online recently and I'd say, do you have any particular political opinions? And they would say, I don't have any. Then either that means that they're stupid and they don't even know what goes on inside their own head, because anything that goes on inside your own head is your politics. That's your views, that's who you are, that's what you are, that's what your life is about, That's where you're coming from, that's what you as a spiritual individual in the real physical world actually is. That's partially what it could be interpreted as like partially what your role is in the world if you align yourself to those ideas properly and completely and wholly. And sometimes it's really important to recognize what that is. Sometimes it's important to challenge it. That's when doubts comes in, because doubts, as the deists say, it keeps you on your toes. It gives you the right to think more about where you yourself could be wrong. And you're going to have lots of forces in your mind, in your body even, which is going to stop you from thinking right. Things that you ate, a couple of days ago that's still inside you, not making you well. It could be things literally in the air, the chemicals you're breathing in. Could also be having an effect upon your mind. Are you malnourished? Are you missing out on your B vitamins, or your magnesium, or whatever? And these things will also have an effect upon the way in which you see the world and what your thoughts and what your feelings are. So challenging yourself, trying to aspire to be healthy by whatever means you can, so that you can be a clear thinker and a free thinker to the best of your ability, appears to somehow be really important, really essential. And only from that can maybe you can get to the pure truth of what you are, all right, and what you are as a person can then go through change. Because if you can't see an entire picture, you can't make a judgment as to how that is affecting you. If you had a painting, a classic painting in front of you, and half of it was obscured by a curtain or a piece of black cardboard, you couldn't make a decision about it because you haven't seen the whole picture. Well, that's what you are yourself. There's things obscuring you. There's ideas you've picked up. There's patterns of behavior, patterns of communication. When I've been going through my own upbringing and self-upbringing, I've often thought to myself, why am I behaving like this? Why am I talking like this? Who am I trying to copy or emulate? Why am I going through the process of repeating that particular behavior? Am I trying to seek approval? Am I trying to work out patterns of behavior which I myself don't fully understand intellectually, And so I'm using mimicry as a means to try and get by, because there's too many things in the outer world I don't understand. And when it gets too much, am I like retreating into like drink and drugs or whatever, just to try and numb myself? Am I just like losing myself in like bad quality TV because that's like a really good way of coping? Or am I doing that just for my recreation because it's the end of the day? You know, what is my motivation when I'm going through the process of slowing myself down, of numbing myself, of finding like peace and balance? I mean, should I just do meditation, or should I turn on the Discovery Channel? What's it going to be? You know what I mean? And if I was to turn on some kind of TV show, you know, what kind of energy would that express, and how would that actually add to the whole like chemistry of who I am? I can't just turn around and say this is just entertainment. I have to think to myself, this is something which is going to have an effect on me, and is that effect necessarily going to help me, taking into account where I am now as a person right now at this very minute, what my emotions are, what my thoughts are, what my instincts and drives, what things I'm getting over and why I'm getting over them. Spirituality applied to everyday life, and it's hard. Okay, it's much easier to just like simplify things through finding a tribe, hate the other, okay, and being in that state of simplicity of this is what I am, boom, simple, identity. Identity never was that concrete, it never was that simple. There's sexual identity, there's psychological identity, there's political identity, there's nationhood or conceptualization of nationhood identity. There's identity on lots of different levels, and all of it is like, well, a lot of it is just like bullshit. But we're encouraged to believe in it. We're encouraged to develop this sense of identity, of concept of self, of concept of tribe, of concept of nationhood and who we are. But why? Does it serve us as individuals? Partially for survival, we have to a certain extent. But to what extent? And is it worthwhile then using mimicry as a means to assist us in our survival, as opposed to something which dominates our thoughts? Can we separate ourselves by the way in which we behave in order to be a clear-minded individual? Can we find a way of like seeking clarity of thoughts to that point, and then to like move beyond that, so we know the way that we're behaving with other people, but we also know more about who we are as an individual, and still being able to be an individual when we're behind closed doors, we're away from that and we're doing our own thing, okay, and also like driving ourselves further forward in our life path and seeking to create change in the outer world. That's the important thing, because if we don't create change, well, we're always creating change in the outer world to a certain degree by every single interaction we have. But what is our primary purpose? Who are we as an individual? What do we actually mean? And is it easy to lose that? Of course it's easy to lose that. These days, okay, you've got your financial commitments, which are going to get harder and harder with the passage of time, especially in this country for various reasons. You've got your, you know, commitments to all these things in your life, and they take up time, very draining, very much lowering, as it were, not necessarily just your resonance energy, but lowering your mentality to the point of destroying or eroding your ability to help improve the world. Right? It's like reality itself has become so hard, survival has become so hard, that it's there to like numb us and stop us from reaching clarity of thought. So we as individuals still need to carry on moving forward the best we can, even though life around us is hard. And only then, maybe, can we help to bring up the world into a state of clarity of thoughts. Does that make any sense whatsoever? I hope it does, because like, I'm really feeling it at the moment. There's like pressures on us as individuals, there's pressures on us from the outside, from the inside, from around us. It's slowing us down, and it's taking away from us the vital energy of, you know, divinity, appropriate goodness, whatever. I mean, if there ever was a God, if there ever was or is a God, okay, that would be like clarity of thought, that would be like wholesomeness, that would be healing, that would be health, that would be peace, that would be balance, that would be goodness for everybody. And right now, all I'm sensing in the world is like sickness and disease and heaviness and weight and fear driving everything. fear of loss of identity, when identity is a false construct that's been created by somebody else in order to turn you into a slave for them and for their purposes. This is crazy. The whole thing is crazy. Society is built like a cult. The whole thing is built like a cult anyway. It has to a certain degree to function. We have to have some structure and some laws and some rules and regulations. That's fine. But keeping society as a complete cult and not allowing the views of the individuals to help to create change, and for the individuals themselves to be trained and to teach themselves how to be trained in clarity of mind so that they can actually do what's right. The yogic practitioners were right when they said that the average individual walks around in something akin to a drunken stupor. That's not people who are drinking alcohol. That's people in their regular normal state of mind. Okay? That's what's happening. And it's down to like the food, the air, the water, all that kind of stuff. It's all, you know, and I'm not perfect. I still eat crap occasionally, okay? But I know full well. I mean, I had a fry-up recently and I was crying whilst I was having it. Okay, it's like that because I know it's not good for me. I know it's not going to give me clarity of thought, but I'm weak. You know, it's the way that the world is at the moment. I mean, you've got like the rules and regulations and laws, which some of which we need, some of which basically aren't necessarily there for our own benefit, and we're not given the ability and the clarity of thought to be able to override the negativity in order to bring about something that's good enough for ourselves as well as everybody else. This is complex times we're going through. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Progress is something we used to have in the old days when I was young. Okay? And now it's gone back. And even some of the things which were progressive have now been turned into something which is regressive, okay, due to the influence of some individuals who've taken something that was good and turned it into something which is harmful. As happened a long, long time ago with something else which was good and has now become something which is harmful in some sectors of society and through some forms of media outlets. And so it's like really, really complex right now. I'm on a bit of a roll of thought. I'm going to carry on this bit by bit. It's just like, things are complex.